Hey, welcome back off the Sidelines podcast. This week, we're going to be jumping into my duplex story, how I got started in real estate investing. I would say it wasn't the traditional route as most people. A lot of people had their home first, the place where they're living, then they'll buy an auxiliary investment property. It's just a separate building. Me, I started off by house hacking. And that's how I feel everybody should start, especially if you're a first time investor. And if you're young and you don't have a big family or anything yet, this is definitely the best way to get into real estate investing. It's about house hacking. So if you're a college student just getting out of school, you've had roommates in your dorms and things like that, it's no different, especially if you're young, just coming through the college experience. You're used to it. This is the perfect opportunity for you to own real estate and to leverage someone else's income to help pay down your mortgage. I still remember the vibration in my chest when the refinery exploded. I was there on site when it happened. But while many of my coworkers faced immediate financial crisis, I had an unexpected safety net, a duplex I purchased 2 years earlier. As I drove home that morning, still in shock, I had no idea that a decision that I had made in 2017 was about to become my financial lifeline. But before we get to the unforgettable moment of my life back in June of 2019, let's take a step back and talk about how I got my first duplex and why. So before I bought my house, I was living in an area called Kensington, Philadelphia. If you're from Philadelphia, you may know about Kensington. So the homeowners had just renovated the property and they were putting it up for rent. So the house was nice. The area, not so much. So at the time when I was living there, enjoyed it for the first few months. Everything was good. But if you know about that area, it's not the best. I had my car broken into. I was living next to a drug infested house, which led to mice and different insects coming over from the other house into our house. And it was just like, started having remorse for signing that lease. So once my lease was over, I said, I can't do this. My rent was about $1,400. I thought for this price, I can probably buy my own house. So that's exactly what I did. So I always knew what I wanted to do. Well, not quite. When I was working at the airport, I had a coworker who would always give away his shifts. And I would ask him, I'm like, hey, why don't you want to work? Why are you always giving away your shifts? And I'll never forget this moment and what he told me. It changed my life. He said, Thomas, I'm only working here for the flight benefits. All my rental properties, they cover everything. They cover my mortgage and my lifestyle. And I said, what? I couldn't believe it. It was a guy, looked like me, successful, had a whole bunch of rental properties, and he's working for American Airlines just to keep his flight benefits. Now, I just didn't understand at first. So he told me, he said, hey, Thomas, whatever you do, the first property you want to get is a multifamily property. That's either duplex, triplex, or quad, which is 4 units. He said you can live in 1 unit and have the rest of the tenants pay for your mortgage. When he told me that, boy, that stuck with me. From there on out, I started doing research, started reading books about it. Wanted to learn as much as I can because, he's working not because he has to. It's because he just wants to keep his flight benefits. That's the only reason why he was working. And I was like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it for sure, right? So I would get a bunch of books. I started reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon. I started reading all the books about real estate. And at that point, my mind was set. My first property is going to be a multifamily. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I want to say my coworker told me the story, and it told me about house hacking, which then I didn't know that's what it was called. He told me this in about 2013. And I didn't get my first property until 2017. So that whole time span was just basically paralysis analysis. I was just looking to get more information and more information before I would even get started. It was fear, and I was scared to admit it. I was scared to go out there, go out on my own and buy a house. I'm only making like $12, $13 an hour. It's like, how can I afford a house when in all actuality, the house is cheaper than my rent that I was paying? So once I had that mindset that, hey, listen, I don't live at this house anymore that I'm renting. I'm not renewing my lease. I had to find this duplex. I had to find this multifamily house that I'm going to call home. So I end up finding a realtor, and we would go out almost every weekend looking at properties. She would send me a bunch of listings, and I would let her know, like, hey, I like this one, or I don't like this one. And we would go out and check them out, what they look like, tour them, run the numbers, and see, kind of find out what was in my price budget. So we did that. She hooked me up with a lender, so I didn't know anything what to do. I mean, it's a lot different from reading the books and actually being out there in the field trying to buy your first property, because there's a lot of the little nuances that they don't tell you in the book. Since I was a first-time home buyer, I had to take a HUD course. To HUD basically educate you on being a homeowner, the requirements, the responsibilities that come with it. So that was a great program for me to go through. Like I said, she hooked me up with the lender. The lender, that's when everything changed, when I met the lender. So going through the lender, you had to meet a certain criteria to pre-qualify to purchase a house. So you had to have at least a 580 credit score, and you have to have a certain debt to income to be able to qualify for the loan. So at that point, I really wasn't qualified, but they told me what I needed to do to get qualified. I needed to reduce my DTI, which is my debt to income, which means I had to either pay off some credit cards, pay off some debt that I had. And I also had to raise my credit score. So at that point, my credit score is hover around 520. So if you have a low credit score, listen, if I can do it, you can do it. All right. Don't worry about the credit score. There's ways to boost your credit score. So he told me those few things that I needed to do. So I said, okay, listen, I got a plan. Well, he told me those are the things that I need to do. So once I understood what I needed to do, then I can make a plan and execute. So he said, hey, Thomas, you need to pay off some debt. So that's what I did. I was working as much as I could at the airport. It still wasn't quite enough for me to pay off my debt, quick enough. So I was doing things like driving Uber on the side to make some extra money to pay down the debt. And it's another thing that I learned in hindsight that I could have done, which is called piggybacking. So I was grinding on Uber to make as much money as I could to pay down my debt to income. So I was doing that while still working. So I ended up paying down some credit cards, which ended up boosting my credit score, and it gave me some more money for my down payment. Now, once I found my property that I wanted to buy, my loan officer gave me a criteria what I qualified for. It was around I say it's about 150,000 back then. The total price for the property was about 150,000. So according to my profile, that's how much I can afford at the time. So I said, okay. So now we have that criteria, find a property that meets my criteria. So me and my realtor were looking for different properties. Found a property that she sent me. Went to check it out. Found out that the current owners were moving out of state, so they didn't want to do it out of state. Manage the property out of state. I went to view the house. It was a duplex. They actually weren't living in there. Both units were rented out already. So the owner was living on the first floor, and they had a tenant already in place on the second floor. I went there, viewed the property. Everything looked great. It was turnkey. So then before closing, we had to do an inspection. So they did an inspection, made some minor updates. Like with HUD, the house has to meet a certain criteria. It can't be falling apart if you want to get a first-time home buyer's loan. They had to make some adjustments with the roof, and there were some minor things that they had to repair before I was able to close. So they did all that, got to the closing table. Nervous. I didn't realize what I was signing up for. They gave me a bag, literally a bag full of keys. I didn't know where the keys went to. That's key for my shed, and key for a lock on the windows. The keys, each door had a different key, and it was just oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? At the closing table, I also got a check, which was surprising to me. So I'm like, hey, what is this check for? And it was this is the security deposit for your tenant. I was like, oh wow, inheriting a tenant already. So I actually didn't know too much about the tenant. I had met her once briefly. I went to go tour the property. I knew she had a cat, but she kept the property pretty clean from when I went to go visit. So I closed on the property April 3rd, 2017. Ever since that day, I would say I was pretty anxious waiting for that first rent check. I didn't know She gonna be on time paying her rent, but she paid on time. The rest is history. I actually still have one of the first rent check that I keep. I want to blur out her information, but I keep this as, just a reminder where I started. It's a great reminder for me. I know a lot of people don't even pay with checks anymore, so I'm gonna keep this one forever. Just to remind myself, where it started from, and it started with this duplex. But I would say the whole process would have been a lot easier if I had somebody that can hold my hand and really give me a real guide on what to do. And that's what Off the Sidelines is all about. Because there's a lot of things you can read in the books. There are a lot of the intricacies that you don't know about. But at the same time, it's all part of the process. Get out your comfort zone. Go out there and take action. You're not going to know everything before you get started. If you know 60% of it, go out there because you're not going to learn everything. You're not going to know everything. But sometimes you just got to get out your comfort zone and go out there and do it. And you'll learn along the way. You're going to make some mistakes. Things are going to happen. Things are going to break, but you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Just think of the big things that have happened in your life so far and like things you've had to overcome. You got through it. You got through it. Your toughest days you got through because you're here today. Just keep pushing forward. I know you got it.